something that we're really excited about. I don't think I need to sell you a patchwork jacket, but
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm Bruce Pask. I'm the men's fashion director of Bergdorf, Goodman, and Neiman Marcus. I am here with London Fashion Week's Creative Conversations. I'm excited to have Michael Hill join us from Drake's, and you are in your brand new Savile Row shop. Am I right?
Hey, Bruce. Yes, I am. I'm in the shop now, which feels a little strange at the moment, given we've been closed for a while. But nice to be back in the store, and that's where I am now, number 9 Savile Row.
Yeah, thanks for popping in. We wanted to kind of create this series of conversations because as we look at London Fashion Week's first digital platform, we wanted to create some content surrounding that because obviously the focus is on previewing new collections and the catwalks and runways, but also one of the big things that we get from being in cities like London during these time periods is looking at new shops, going to see and discover new brands. And so we wanted to kind of bring that component of that to the virtual landscape. And yours, I had the good fortune of visiting at the end of last year. And I was so impressed by it. Obviously, I'm a big fan of the brand and I've known you for quite some time. But I think it was made for really, an exciting spot for our viewers to see. And I'm really happy that you're there and able to bring us virtually to you.
Thank you. Well, really nice to hear. And in some respects, incredible timing in terms of when we moved in here, given what's happened this year. We weren't far away before. We were down on Clifford Street, just around the corner.
Yeah, exactly. I remember.
Our lease was up, and thankfully the business has grown. And so we were very excited about taking, our next steps as we have, evolved as a business. An opportunity came up on Savile Row. I think we all felt very positively towards it, and it has been, a really great few months for the business. Clearly, come March or whatever it was, that all changed. But that's been the case for everybody. But no, it's been a really positive move for us, and we've loved being here. In some respects, we're not, I suppose, the traditional Savile Row tailor or outfitter, but we were really excited to do what we felt we could contribute to, the evolution of this great street and everything that's gone into it over the years.
I think it brings a really nice new aspect to the Row, obviously, known for bespoke tailoring and things very sartorial. And what I love, the energy that your store brings to that. Obviously, it's steeped in a tailoring tradition, but I had no idea what to expect when I walked in the door, and it really is the farthest thing that one I think could even imagine a shop on Savile Row would look like. And I want to get into the kind of conception of that. But the thing that I was most impressed by is it's very vivid, it's very bright. You take kind of this meandering path through these kind of curvilinear fixtures. They're, really nice moments throughout the shop. You've got the settee with books. And the other thing that I think is very interesting, and I think not so often seen in Western retail, but often in Asia, the idea of bringing greenery indoors. And I think you have a lot of plant life, and it's amazing how much vitality that brings. So I wanted to give us a little bit of a virtual walkthrough in your mind of the shop, and we'll try to kind of paint the picture for our viewers.
Really nice to hear you describe it in that way. That's very much, what we were going for. I think moving in here gave us the opportunity to break away a little bit from what we had done before, in the sense that, I think we were very much following the tradition almost of a classic menswear store. I think the collection, more or less reflected that. And it's not that we've lost that part of our business, but I suppose we have evolved. Other categories have come on. We're doing more in terms of outerwear, more in terms of the casual wear side of our business. And therefore, it felt like we had an opportunity, as I suppose we begun to stand on our own 2 feet, more and more of a business. I think looking at where we were historically, we were very much a traditional manufacturing and wholesale business, doing a lot of production for other brands. And that's always been very important to us. You know, the minute we took the business on 10 years ago, we didn't want to just cast that aside. And that's always been, you know, a fundamental part of our business, and that remains the case. But we've increasingly been able to build our own brand and to become stronger and stronger in our own right. And that, I think, in turn gave us the possibility here to express ourselves a little more, I suppose, and to do something that was a little more open.
It's all even slightly idiosyncratic. Like, it is not, one would call, like, not a traditional haberdashery. And I think obviously there is, you know, a broad range of items included in the presentation there, but it's, you know, a very kind of vivid environment. Did you have that in your mind when you were thinking about it, or did you have a designer that you really respected that you worked with? How did that happen?
Do you know, we worked with a couple of really great young people, Summer and George, Studio Abroad, who'd never, I think I'm right in saying, who'd never done a shop before.
Oh, wow.
You know, and that was, I'm not saying that was important for us, but that it really wasn't a part of it. I think we had a fairly good idea of the world that we wanted to create. They were very much in tune with that. They were happy that our brief wasn't about, you know, 10 different competitors. It was really about, you know, the world that we wanted to evolve into. And I suppose the, you know, the people and team that we feel we are, and we wanted to reflect that in the store. And also, I think, as you know, when you take on a space, there are the bones of that space. In our case, I'm looking above me, and I've got, you know, 3 of the most incredible skylights.
Amazing natural light you have there. It's really extraordinary.
Exactly. And it was, you know, probably the first time we walked in, we were sort of like, wow, well, if we had, you know, incredible greenery and we almost had like a greenhouse, you know, full of plants here, it would just feel right in this space. And I think we've tried to be, you know, as instinctive as possible with it. You know, as you could probably imagine, you know, for a brand of our scale, we've grown and we've ticked along nicely, but, you know, we haven't come at this with the world's greatest budget. So we had to be a little careful about how we put things together, but we still felt within that we were able to do something beautiful. So, for example, the timber you see behind me, if I just adjust the camera a touch, we've used a beautiful Austrian larch. You know, we could have used some, you know, great walnut or mahogany. Well, we couldn't because we couldn't afford it. But, you know, we've used a material with great integrity, with great provenance, and you know, I think it works for our space. And we've had to be a little frugal, but I suppose that in turn gives you the opportunity to be, you know, maybe that bit more creative.
I absolutely agree. And I do think, you know, the kind of overworn phrase, necessity breeds invention. But I do think that there's something to be said for being freed from having a large budget, and you have to be nimble, you have to be creative and inventive when you're working with a tight budget. And I do think it can sometimes breed really, really strong creativity, because I think I remember just, you know, producing photo shoots, and when you have these big productions, there's so much pressure that it's got to be, you know, the picture's got to be perfect. And I think it can inhibit taking some chances. And I think, to your point, like when you're working on tight purse strings, I think you have to kind of be nimble and creative. And I think it can afford a little bit of some bold choices, which I think is great. And your shop clearly represents that. And the other thing that I love about it, when I walked in unannounced, I should have given you a ring, but I was there and I popped by. I wanted to see it while I was in town. And the thing that I'm also struck by is, and I think this is so important for so many brands to realize a retail space, is your team is so knowledgeable, but so friendly and collegial. I mean, they're immediately, you know, in a conversation when you walk in. And I think just the idea of making somebody feel at home, because there is a very residential vibe to your shop, and to keep people feeling great and comfortable. And it was, in every aspect, visually as well as emotionally, such a great experience.
I think what's nice about that is that we have a really kind of broad range of characters. Yes, possibly the common thread that binds us together is that we're really into the product we put together. And to your point about the necessity for creativity, I think that we want to make sure we're putting as much of that into the product as possible. All the investment has got to go into the product. We don't want to compromise on that front. It's not about how we can make it cheaper. It's about how we can always invest in it and make it better. And we do have a really nice broad range of guys who are into it. And we work on every aspect of the business together. We've just been downstairs, working on the product together. And whether that's, guys from the floor or, the marketing side of the business, or not that that's a huge side of the business by any chance, but we're connected. It's one that we feel very connected to,
for sure.
And and it's not just a question of one department doing something and then handing it over to the next department. It's all of us being involved and being invested right from the outset, being as critical and as honest as possible about our business, about how we can take it forward. And I think the time that we are going through right now, I think, really puts the focus on that. It is a time to be as nimble and as dynamic and creative, I suppose, as we possibly can be going forward. And it does mean asking some huge questions of ourselves. But, as daunting as it feels, there is also, some really great opportunities out there that we're excited about, trying to take advantage of.
I think it's nice, obviously, with a small business, and it does breed this very collegial atmosphere. Like, you're all in it together. You're all multitasking, working on different components of it. It's interesting to me that in my mind, obviously I knew Michael Drake as the founder of the brand, and you worked with him for many, many years. So I met you through Michael, and it was a business that is said, quote unquote, founded on scarves, shawls, and plaids. We can call that accessories and kind of layman's parlance.
Furnishing.
When I think about Drake's is being founded on kind of these beautiful neckties and pocket squares in particular, but then I go to your shop and how it's evolved into a real, broad assortment of accessories, ready to wear, things sartorial and tailored. And I think it's really amazing when I think about the foundation of the brand and how it's evolved over time.
No, and again, lovely to hear. And what's nice, I think, is that, in so many ways, I feel like Michael Drake is still very much involved in the business. He's not employed by the business, but I think he sees what we're doing. We speak about the business together. He was my mentor for a long time.
Please, I said hi.
I certainly will, Bruce. No, and he'll be very pleased to hear from you. And the relationship we've had with Bergdorf's and those sorts of relationships that we've had all over the world due to the wholesale business that we've had for many years have been so far-reaching and long-lasting, and they're very much, a great part of our business and have helped to make us, who we are today. And Michael takes a keen interest in what we're up to. Is never shy of giving me advice over a stiff cocktail, and and I would hope that I'm very open to that, because I think, hopefully we are a business that takes the long term very seriously, and therefore I think it's important for us to have a thread that goes back a long way in our business, and that the idea is that we're taking that thread forward as well. The last thing we want to do is cut off what we were doing in the past to do something new. It is an evolution, what we're doing in terms of our product. That should be slow, that should be very careful, built on strong foundations. And as I say, we take all of that very seriously. So it's, long may that be the case, frankly.
Yeah, for sure. And tell me how you got involved with working with Michael and with the Drake's company. How did that come about?
Hadn't really struck me until you asked right now that at the time I was working on Savile Row.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was working on Savile Row. Michael Drake used to occasionally pop into the store, and because he might be working with Huntsman or Anderson and Shepherd nearby, and he would pop in and say hello. And for me, that was always very special because, at the time, I hadn't really seen him since I was a boy growing up in the factory when, at one time he shared a business, the Hill and Drake business, with my father. And so, I used to see him, as a young boy coming into the factory weekend. And so, to see him, whatever that was then, 20 years later, I mean, I think we'd heard about each other, vicariously, in my case, through my parents. very nice to be able to make the link and put all the stories together that I've heard through my childhood growing up about Michael and about everything that went on with the business at the time. No, I think, what you were saying about, the additional product that we're doing today, we're not trying to do all of that product for the sake of it. We're doing what feels right at the right time with the same ethos and philosophy that we've put into, the scarves, shawls, plaids, neckwear. All of those same ingredients go into what we do now. Some of that product is the same, but the same attitude and point of view goes into the products that we do now, even if those categories might have evolved. I mean, hopefully we were doing something classic at the time, but with a fresh and vibrant point of view, and we hope that that's still the case now, even though there are one or two more categories to cover.
It feels like an organic expansion to me. I mean, everything feels very Drake's, and I like that it feels, that it's got this head-to-toe presentation. And when I walked into the shop, and obviously I'm very familiar with the brand, seeing these different categories, obviously tailoring, knitwear, sportswear, outerwear, but I also think it's nice that you've got this more broad foundation now. And I think a lot of us have been working from home from the last couple months. We've seen the kind of gradual and now rapid casualization of the workplace. And I do think that you and your brand, Drake's, is really poised well to dress this kind of new, kind of casual, but still professional person.
That's it. And we're excited about that. It, perhaps the change has come about, quicker than we thought, unless we're open to the acceleration. It's not going to happen for us. But I think that's right, and I think that's really exciting. But in a sense, hasn't clothing always been about having to be able to sniff what's going on in the market and to be able to be in tune with great products so that you can put those things together? And right now, the onus is on that more than ever. I think it is. It is. Of course, it's a fraction daunting. We're all going through some huge changes. But I think what's interesting is that even when I look back, going back to those days with Michael Drake, we never used to think about the neckwear, for example, in isolation. Yes, okay, we want to make a beautiful tie, the best product we possibly can, and we're going to put all the ingredients into that allow us to do that. But we are also going to think about it in the context of everything else, of all the other categories, of who would wear it, of where that would be worn. And so actually, when we started getting into other products, going back 10 years and doing one or two more things, actually I had quite an amazing muse in Michael Drake. I could almost, manifest his personality. Now, I'm not saying for a moment he's an amazing guy with his own absolutely individual personality, but certainly as far as inspiration goes, about being able to put him and everything that we spoke about together, it was a very easy launch pad. And of course that then evolves through me, through the guys that work here. We all help put it together.
Michael definitely established this what I think is a very clear kind of Drake's aesthetic, a Drake sensibility. And we talked about it where obviously you're an English company with very strong ties to the tradition of dressing in the UK and the history there. But there is a sense of modernity and even like a little bit of the continental, like, a lot of English fabrications, but you work a lot of made in Italy, and there's a little bit, dare I say, sprezzatura there as well. Like it's a little bit of a flair. And so for me, it seems like a really great melding of like this great English tradition, but also with a little bit of an Italian flair, which I think is quite signature.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's interesting there is, even though, in so many respects, we are a British company, even a very British company, given that we have two factories here in the UK. The tie factory over on Haberdasher Street down the road, the shirt factory down in Chard in Somerset, those are our factories. Very much a British business. But even if I go back 10 years and 20 years, we didn't necessarily have a particularly big footprint here in terms of our market. we always packed the old Globetrotter suitcases that we used to bring to you, and we would sell in New York, and we'd spend a couple of weeks there. We'd certainly go to Italy, and we'd sell to just about every top owner-driven family store from top to toe in Italy. We were with all those great stores, working with them. The same in Japan, although I suppose that was a little more the department stores, and then the real quality specialty stores. So it differed from market to market. I think the other interesting thing is that we were working with some of the great old school tailors, but we were also working with some of the high fashion brands as well. And so there was always that nice dichotomy and balance we were able to play with. So yes, although we were British, we were very much influenced by those different markets. And that in turn went into what we would put into our collection, because I suppose we were seeing the world in such a way whereby, it wasn't as, it wasn't as big possibly as it seemed back then. There was a certain individual sartorial style language that, of course, has become much more easy to read in a sense now as the internet and social media does its thing. But that's those markets have always influenced us, and it's and they continue to do so. And I think that helps to ensure that we do have our own handwriting. It is very plural in its outlook, and we also try not to be too prescriptive either. It's a case of wanting to make our suggestions, and I think we make those fairly passionately. But we're always open to be surprised by how, whether it's one of the guys on the floor or one of our customers likes to put it together. That's always interesting for us. And I'm forgive me if I'm rambling a touch, but you touched on it in one of your former questions, Bruce, when you were talking about what ingredients go into putting it all together. What one or two say nice things about the lookbooks we put together, for example?
They feel refreshing, and that's the thing I like about it, is you see the tradition, you see the modernity. It's like, yes, there's tailoring, but it's a lot of deconstruction, but there's such a freshness to it is what sets Drake's apart.
I think we're quite impulsive with them. I think we're a very small team. We're able to be very nimble with all of that. I think it looks spontaneous because it is, really.
I mean, the spontaneity gives it a charm that it's not overthought. It feels very kind of relaxed, and it's sort of like you want to be in those clothes, you want to be hanging out with those guys, and you want to be feeling like that.
And we believe it as well. We wouldn't, if it doesn't feel right to us, if we wouldn't want to wear it, we wouldn't put it out there. We wouldn't make the suggestion.
And then I love also with the store, you now have the showroom as a part of the shop. Yeah. When I was there, I visited and had a look through the collection, and obviously we're, part of London Fashion Week, which is going on right now. What are you getting ready to show? What are you inspired by at the moment? What is, I'm curious to see what's been going on in your brain and what we're going to see.
Well, we are working, I suppose, very much on next spring, summer, as a lot of brands are speaking about a season like that. For us, that has evolved in terms of it not just being, one block, one full collection that will drop and wait 6 months. We are certainly looking to be much more dynamic on that side of our business, and that's something that has already started. We were already, going into a multiple drop system, which for us allows us to, show all those loyal customers, new product all the time. So we're working on spring, summer. That said, we have autumn, winter, not autumn, winter per se, but new product, I should say, coming on in store beginning of July. And that's all very exciting, and that's some of the product you see. Let me give you a little span with the camera. Is that okay if I do that?
Yes, my gosh, great. And so it's a rugby shirt underneath a jacket?
Exactly, rugby shirt, some soft tailoring.
See, and I love that kind of, it's a slightly eccentric mix, but you can literally envision the person that would wear that, and it just feels so refreshing and fun.
Yeah.
And I think like the lightheartedness.
That's it. And really nice to be able to break up categories that might historically have been seen as, well, that's very formal and that's very casual. Those are two things that fit together.
Always found the styling that you do is always really inspiring, and it feels believable. And I think it also is informing the customer and the client, because it's realistic, but it's still kind of putting things together in a way that may not be either classic or traditional, or even in their mind, seeing things that they have in their closet and putting them together in a different way.
No, and that's very much how we see it.
Yeah, it looks great.
The suede rough out chore is something that we're really excited about. I don't think I need to sell you a patchwork jacket, but
I don't know what you're talking about. And you guys also do a really, really great chore coat, which is a garment that we've seen taking off enormously in the last couple of years. I'm a huge fan, as you know, but I love the chore jacket you do in a really, really soft fabrication, which has become this kind of casual sport jacket alternative.
And I'd even go a step further that, can't that chore be, an evolution of the suit somewhat as well? It feels right for today, and put it together, actually, wear a knitted tie with it. It's a really cool way of making a suit.
I totally agree. And I think you bring up a really good point in that the seasons going forward and having come out of this kind of global pause, investing in things that make you feel good, but also the idea of durability and versatility, like these garments that have multiple lives. Like, as you said, you can take a chore coat, put a tie in it, it feels really formal. I think I've worn my chore coat to a black tie event. Like, I think it's just about and like helping inform our customers about how to do that. And I think with the obviously with Drake's Diary, your Instagram account, and with your lookbooks, I think they are prescriptive and informative for customers. And I think it is going to be really interesting to see that we will focus on the versatility of these garments. And I think it's about informing people. You can wear this that way. You can also wear this, add that, and it changes it. It's all like creating these components that all work together, and you get such a great investment out of it.
No, I mean, that sort of perennial argument about the rules and breaking the rules. Well, if it is a question of the rules, I think we're gonna have to be prepared to and be open to looking at how we can evolve those rules.
Absolutely.
When it comes down to it, to hell with the rules.
I've always been a big purveyor and a fan of being permissive in fashion. I think we need to kind of empower the customers to kind of make their own decisions. And yes, we want to give guidelines or guardrails as far as, because people want to know what's acceptable and what's not. But I think it's so much more interesting and more important that we're permissive. I mean, people need to find their styles, and that is self-determined, and we are here to support them in that.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And at the same time, that doesn't mean we have to compromise in terms of the cloth, for example, that goes into the product. In many respects, the cloth for us is becoming somehow more old-fashioned and more sturdy and more durable. Making that, innovating with that is all part of what's exciting about it. And I think, opens up, a whole new world. It's just a question of being open and receptive to it, I suppose.
I totally agree. Well, Michael, thank you so much for taking us on a tour of the new shop. And viewers, I urge you, the next time you're in town or when you have a moment, stop by 9 Savile Row. It's a really inventive way of looking at retail. It's a fun shop, and most importantly, it's a place where you really want to spend time. The people working there are so inspiring and friendly, and congrats on really creating a special space. And I will look forward to seeing you there in person sooner than we think, I hope. Happy London Fashion Week.
All the best to everybody.
Thank you.